The first big official visitor has come and gone for Indiana basketball, and after this weekend, the Hoosiers might be in the lead for Taylen Kinney.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Well, there were some crazy results around the Big Ten in college football this weekend. We'll talk about those. Plus, are we feeling good about Indiana football's win over Old Dominion or feeling bad about Indiana's win over Old Dominion? All of that coming up on today's show. But we begin with what happened this weekend outside of football surrounding Indiana basketball, which was the first big official visitor of the fall. We've told you that the next 6 weeks are really, really important. Basically, from the end of August, start of September to the middle of October, there's a lot happening here. And that Indiana has 6 big visitors coming to town. And it started this past weekend with the number 1 ranked point guard in the country, a top 15 player no matter where you look, and one that Indiana has not really been in the mix for early on, but has since changed that narrative. His name is Taylen Kinney, and he was on campus this weekend, the 5-star point guard, 6'1", 185 pounds, who has been seen to be leaning towards Louisville for quite some time, and I don't know if that's the case anymore. He was on campus this weekend. His first official visit to IU. He's been here. He's talked to this staff. He's talked to Darren DeVries. This staff has gone to see him plenty of times when they're allowed to, right, during their visiting windows. But this was the visit, right? This was the official visit for the number 1 point guard in the class of 2026. And by all accounts, it went really well. It went really well. And this is what I've been talking about is Indiana just has to get some of these dudes on campus. You just got to get them here. Get them here, roll out the red carpet, literally, and show them why IU is a place that they want to go. Because so many of these kids, right, have had a bad outlook on Indiana basketball because of what it's been, right? And what others are saying about Indiana. We've talked about negative recruiting. It's absolutely been happening to this Indiana's team and this Indiana program over the last 10, 15, 20 years. Darren DeVries and his staff are now having to combat that, overcome that, and basically bury that as far as they can. And you start with these types of visits with Taylen Kinney, who is just an electric player in the class of 2026. He can shoot the ball at will. His handles are unbelievable. His court vision is incredible. He is the number 1 point guard in the class for a reason, okay? You give him the ball, and you just let him do his thing. Whether he wants to score, get his teammates involved, run the fast break, run a high pick and roll, go one-on-one, play 2v2, whatever he wants to do, you just kind of let him do it because that's how good Taylen Kinney is. And that's what Darren DeVries' offense is going to look like. We saw glimpses of it in the game against the games in Puerto Rico, right? You're going to see glimpses of it again in these 2 exhibition games coming up soon, next month, actually. And then you're going to see it when the season begins in November. That has to be the selling point to a guy like Taylen Kinney is this offense was built for you. This offense is literally a perfect match for what you're looking for. Swipe right on this thing, man. This one is for you. And I'm sure that that's exactly what Indiana told him. He got to be here, right? Taylen Kinney on a weekend that the town was full. The town was busy, right? Because of Indiana football opening up against Old Dominion. We'll talk more about that here in just a little bit in today's show. But you brought him here on a perfect weekend, opening weekend of college football. He got to be around the team, got to be around the fans, got to be around the town when it was full and exciting, right? With a buzz and an energy in the air. He got to see what Bloomington truly is. And Indiana put on their best sell. And I think you made some serious progress. I really, really do. I still think Louisville's in the mix here. I think Indiana's right there. I really do. I think we're right there. And I think Kansas has made a big push in this thing as well. And don't overlook some of these other SEC teams or other Big Ten teams as well. But I think Indiana might have taken the lead on Taylen Kinney. I think there's still a lot of work to do, but you're feeling a whole lot better after this official visit than you were, let's say, a month ago. That's why you do the visits. That's why you get them on campus, man, because you are able to sway them and show them rather than just telling them over a FaceTime call. You could show them face to face. His family was here. He was here. All the coaching staff was there. I mean, this is why you take the visits. And I truly think that Indiana's right back in this thing and has every chance to land the number 1 point guard in the country. That was this weekend. Also saw a report from 247 that says Drew Adams, the assistant for Indiana basketball, is actually overseas right now in Europe visiting a player in the 2026 class, one that we talked about a while ago and admittedly haven't talked about him much since. Indiana went over to see Miikka Muurinen. Do you remember this kid? Do you remember this guy? Miikka Muurinen, Miikka Muurinen. Miikka Muurinen. We talked about him a long time ago, months ago, right? That Indiana reached out, Indiana offered, Indiana was trying to make this thing happen, and it had kind of tailed off. Well, Drew Adams said, hey, you're playing basketball this week, right? Cool. Let me fly over there and come and see you. And that's exactly what he's doing for the 4-star power forward who's from overseas, okay? He's playing in Europe as we speak. He's playing over in Finland, and Indiana felt it was necessary to go watch this kid. And I think he's really, really good. He's 6'10", 185 pounds. He's a top 15 player. He's ranked number 15 in the class of 2026. And when you have an assistant coach that's willing to get on a plane and fly across the world to come and see you play, that's pretty impressive. That speaks volumes. At least it would to me if I was a recruit. If I'm a young kid, a young recruit, and I see an assistant coach from a school in the States fly over late August, early September and come watch me play, yeah, that says a lot about how bad that they want me and hopefully how good they would treat me if I go there. And I mean, it's just incredible to see the effort that this staff is putting in. And Miikka's a great player. I mean, he's got it all as a 6'10" power forward. He can shoot better than almost any big in this class of 2026, handles the ball really well. He's physical on the inside. He runs the floor extremely well. There's big name teams going after him right now, Duke, Michigan, others like that. But Indiana's doing their best to get him on an official visit. They feel like that can happen, but we'll have to wait and see. This is more so of he's a really good player, and Indiana's putting in the effort to make this thing happen. And previous staffs wouldn't have done this. They wouldn't have. Plain and simple. They wouldn't have done this. Hey, there are current staffs in college basketball that wouldn't do this. But Indiana is. And it's going to pay off. I'm dying on that hill. I've planted my flag and I refuse to move. Indiana's recruiting efforts are going to pay off with commits. It's going to happen, and it's starting right now. It's starting right now with a great visit from Taylen Kinney. You've got an assistant overseas watching Miikka Muurinen as well, and you have another big visit coming up this weekend. Remember, Junior County, one of the best shooting guards in the class, is going to be on campus this weekend for Indiana basketball, so we'll keep talking about that. Plus, you have Anthony Thompson coming up next week as well, so big-time visitors coming up for the Hoosiers over the next several weeks. All right, coming up here on Locked On Hoosiers, we will talk about Indiana football. Are we feeling good about the win over Old Dominion or not so much? We've had a couple of days to sit on it and think. We talk about that coming up next here on the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by the Game Cap, and I got to grab this awesome thing because, quick question for all of you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit in the front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? Yeah, that's what I said. I said hat because for me, I'm wearing the Game Cap. Folks, look at this thing. Look how awesome that this thing is. They sent us some, and a bunch of our shows on Locked On have one now. And look how retro this thing is. Look at the big block Hoosiers letter. For those of you on audio, really sorry. You're going to have to go to YouTube and look at this thing. Look how awesome this is. Look, I still have the tag on it. I mean, this is old school, as retro as it gets. I don't know. I'm going to wear it. I'll probably find it and put it on a shelf, maybe back here or something, because just look how crisp, look how clean that this thing looks, man. It really is a neat, really, really nice looking hat. Because they're not just hats, they're the same vintage styles that fans wore back in the 80s and the 90s. Clearly, right? I mean, that's what that looks like. And guess what? They still go for the same low price that they did back then. When you use the code Locked On right now, you can get this vintage hat, this one right here, for $16.99. And you can't buy a cheeseburger for $16.99 anymore. Head to thegamecaps.com, thegamecaps.com. Use the code Locked On to get this hat for $16.99 at an exclusive discount, because legends wear the game. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Game Time. College football is back, and I could not be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real. Actually getting tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout that you did not expect. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to you, the fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay. I use it on everything: music, comedy, theater, you name it, they got it, and I use it. And it's just faster and cheaper and easier to use Game Time than any other app that I've ever used. And I've told you, I deleted all those off my phone. I don't need them. I don't want them, because Game Time is the only one that I've had the best success with, the most success with, and that's why I use it every single time. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And hey, appreciate everybody who joined us on the live show on Saturday afternoon. If you're watching on YouTube, that's where we went live right after Indiana's football win over Old Dominion, which is what we're talking about here in just a moment. But we're going to try and go live after every single game, the best that we can, on the Locked On Hoosiers YouTube channel. So you get in there, give your quick thoughts, your initial thoughts and feelings on it and stuff. And so make sure that you're going to be with us on Saturdays, and of course the one Friday as well. That one's going to be a little tougher just for me personally, but we'll talk about that more when we get there. So thank you to everybody who joined us on the live stream on Saturday afternoon. But if you didn't join us, that's okay, because now we've had a couple of days to sit in it and kind of relish in Indiana's win over Old Dominion, 27-14. And over the weekend, since Saturday, evening, right, when everything was said and done, I've done a lot of looking around the internet on what Indiana fans are saying about this victory. And I'm taking some of this from our live show, from YouTube comments, from social media, talking to some people as well. And there's a lot of people that seem to be concerned with how this game went down against Old Dominion. And look, I understand. I do. 27-14 isn't the most pleasing, appealing, satisfying score in the world. It's not, right? And I do want to say it could have been worse in terms of the score. Indiana could have beaten them by more, I guess is what I meant to say there. You had a wide open touchdown to your second best receiver, Omar Cooper, and he just couldn't come up with it, right? The two touchdowns you give up defensively were on two read option plays by the quarterback, basically the same play set, and you got fooled both times. And he went 75 yards and, I believe, 78 yards on the other one. But that's it. Your defense didn't give up anything else other than two broken run plays that, again, you just got fooled on. You had a special teams touchdown in there, so you could take that away if you wanted to. There's just a lot of weird feelings around this game. So I asked the questioner, are we feeling good after this win, or are we feeling bad about this win? And I do want to reiterate what I said on Saturday. You need to feel good about a win because they're hard to come by in college football. Because teams like Old Dominion have gotten better over the years. Over time, they have gotten better. Why? Because of this crazy thing called the transfer portal. If you don't make it as a 2D player in P4, you could go play at Old Dominion and probably be a starter, right? That's what these teams have done over these past couple of seasons. All these P4 rejects, and I hate to say it that way, but it's just kind of the reality of it. You can't make it there? Cool. Go play at Mercer. Go play at Old Dominion. Go play it at an FCS school. Go play somewhere and actually play, right? These teams have all gotten better over time. So the bottom level, the floor of college football has come up and has gotten better. And just dominating bad opponents week after week after week isn't necessarily reality. There are still some that are bad. Western Illinois that Illinois played, they were bad. Indiana State that we're going to play in a couple of weeks, they're going to be bad. But somebody like Old Dominion isn't someone to overlook or expect to push around. Do I think a 27-14 victory is okay? Is it good enough? No. But for week one, with a lot of moving pieces and a lot of new pieces, I think it's okay. Is Fernando Mendoza's stat line of 18 for 31 for 193 yards and no touchdowns, is that exciting? No, not really. He didn't throw a pick, though. The passing game was right? I mean, he threw 18 of 31. That's not overly impressive to me. Also, again, no touchdowns, but one of those was dropped. But he looked fine. He didn't look great, but he looked fine. I'm not saying he looked bad. And you can probably see where I'm going with this question. I'm kind of going right down the middle here. I thought the run game looked really good. I thought the running game looked really, really good between Roman Hemby, Kalen Black, and Lee Beebe Jr. I thought all of them played extremely well, other than the fumble from Beebe Jr. on his first carry as a Hoosier, which you can't make that up sometimes. It is what it is. At least they went back to him, right? At least they gave him 5 more carries after that. He ended up with 6 carries, 33 yards, and heck, he had wrong stat line. Apologies. 11 carries for 73 yards did Lee Beebe Jr. I knew that didn't sound right. Yeah, he had 11 carries in this game. Kalen Black had 17. Roman Hemby had 23. 23 carries. Indiana ran the ball 57 times in this game. 51 if you take out the official rushes from Fernando Mendoza. Roman Hemby looked incredible. Kalen Black looked speedy. And then Beebe Jr. is your RB3. I thought the running game looked solid. Receivers, again, that kind of goes in the passing game. It's going to need to improve. I thought the offensive line played well. I thought they played good enough in this game. I talked on Saturday about the defensive line and the lack of pressure, the lack of energy, the lack of, I don't want to say effort, but execution was not there early. They finally started to put a little bit of pressure on Colton Joseph, the quarterback for Old Dominion, went 11 of 22 for 96 yards. But the secondary looked good, right? You had 3 picks, you had 3 interceptions in this game. Like, what more could you ask for from your secondary? I thought the linebacker unit was getting after it. Just between all the guys in that rotation, you played a bunch of dudes in the secondary. And so overall, do I feel good about how Indiana looked in the win? No, but I don't feel bad. I'm ready to see week 2. And what I mean by that is I'm ready, and you can hear Kurt Signetti clearly wasn't pleased with it with his comments after the game. I'm ready to see the jump and improvements that this team makes from week 1 to week 2, because you only know so much, right? You only know so much when you're practicing against yourself, when you're going up against the same dudes every single day, the same sets every single day, and everybody kind of knows what's coming. It is what it is. And you've heard so much here recently that the defense is always ahead of the offense this early in the season. And it's true. It just feels like everybody's talking about it right now. I want to see what changes within this Indiana football team after you've played an actual game against somebody else. You showed where you need help. You need help in the passing game. You need dudes to get open. Fernando Mendoza needs to slow down a little bit. He needs to feel comfortable. He needs to have confidence in the guys in front of him and his receivers, right? You need to get more pressure from the defensive line. You need to find a way to stop a running quarterback because, yeah, that was bad. You can't give up 275-yard runs to the quarterback in the same exact way. Those things have to change. But now you have that on film. Now you have that to go back and work on this week and say, hey, we screwed up here, but we're going to fix it right now. And I trust Curt Cignetti and his entire staff to do just that. They did it a year ago, did they not? They did it last year. So I think they'll do it again this year. So I'm saying hold off on just going crazy, pump the brakes a minute. If we get into week 2 against Kennesaw State and the same mistakes are happening, then we start to be concerned. Then we start to worry. Then you will hear me start to raise a little bit of you know what, because then that's an issue. But week 1, I'm trying not to overreact yet, but there are some things that the Hoosiers need to fix. I'm not saying they played perfect. I'm not saying everything's okay. I'm just saying it's only week 1. Let's see what happens this week in practice. And let's see if the Hoosiers can get it fixed in week 2. All right, coming up in our final segment on Locked On Hoosiers, Indiana won in week 1 this weekend, and a lot of other Big Ten teams did too. Can every conference say that in college football? I don't think so. We talk about that coming up next here on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is the next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost your blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours to kick in, Rugiet's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in just 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. Look, the fact that it's completely online, I think is really, really cool. You don't have to worry about going in and out of a doctor's office and messing with all of that, right? Rugiet connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your front door. So you don't have to worry about it. It's nothing to be embarrassed about, but you don't even have to go through that idea and process. They'll ship it right to your front door discreetly for you. Head to Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege to get 15% off today. That's Rugiet.com, Rugiet.com/LockedOnCollege, and use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for full safety information. All right, final segment here on Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here, truly making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. And hey, make sure that if you're on YouTube, you subscribe to the channel. It's free. It's easy. All it's going to do is get you notified every time that we post a new episode, a bonus episode going live as well. So make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss any of that. And then for my audio listeners, make sure that you are following us, subscribed if you can, have those notifications turned on so you never miss a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers as well. We're going to do a little recap of week 1 here quickly. More on this as the week goes along, but overall, the Big Ten had a great opening weekend. Every team that was favored won, and the only 2 teams who were not favored, I told you, were Northwestern and UCLA, and they got beat as they should. Northwestern looked horrible. Oh, horrible against Tulane. I watched some of that game for no reason. I definitely was not looking at it for another reason other than entertainment, right? They looked terrible, so that game was a disaster. UCLA just got rocked by Utah and shows that Devin Dampier is really, really good, and Nico, I mean, I don't know, dude. UCLA looked really, really bad. Every other Big Ten team was victorious. Heck, even, I hate to say it, Even Purdue looked pretty good. They jumped on Ball State early, 17-0 or 14-0, something like that in the first quarter. And look, they never looked back. So good for them. They're off and running. Michigan was fine. Oregon looked really good. Penn State was vanilla. Ohio State, though, that's the victory. That's the one. That's the one the Big Ten needed and looked for. And they get it done. 14-7. The Buckeyes take down the Texas Longhorns. I had that picked. I picked that on the squad last week. I'm just saying, I think Ohio State's a really good team. And I wasn't buying into Arch Manning on the road just yet. I wasn't going to do it. And you saw why. It was a boring game, but Ohio State gets it done. In the Big Ten, overall, I know Rutgers had to escape Ohio. I know Nebraska had to come back and beat Cincinnati. And I know Wisconsin looked horrible against Miami of Ohio. But the Big Ten had a good weekend. Can the SEC say that? Can the SEC talk about a great weekend in week one of college football? I don't think they can. I'll admit, Auburn had a nice win over Baylor, but Texas got beat. LSU saved the conference down the stretch on Saturday night. They got a win against Clemson, a good win against Clemson. What about Alabama? Can they talk about having a good weekend? Nope. Who else? South Carolina looked fine against Virginia Tech. Kentucky had to escape against Toledo. Mississippi State struggled with Southern Miss. Tennessee tried to blow it down the stretch against Syracuse. Everybody else kind of played some of their, cupcake non-conference games. But I don't know, man. I'm just saying, just keep an eye on the SEC. Checking on your SEC friends if you got any out there. But that's what I'm talking about. And kind of looping all this back together as we wrap up here. With Indiana, you take a win however you can get it. It wasn't up to our standard after last year, right? But it will get there. But you have to appreciate a win. And you have to understand that things are going to get better. And Kurt Signetti knows that. And if it doesn't, then it's going to be a long season. But you are just fine. Indiana is fine. I think the talent is there. The athletes are there, and the coaches on the staff I believe in. And so I'm happy with a week one win. You turn your focus now to Kennesaw State. I don't know if there's a betting line for Indiana. I know there's a lot of spreads out there. Let's see if Indiana does have a spread. They do, according to our friends at FanDuel. 35.5 for Indiana against Kennesaw State because the Owls, they lost to Wake Forest 10-9. That is a Robbie Ashford-led Wake Forest who has been around the block quite a few times. I watched some of this game just because of it being Kennesaw State and Indiana's week 2 opponent. And while Kennesaw State almost won this game, don't buy into the Owls. They are not good. Wake Forest is just that bad. So there you go. That's the ACC for you. And remember, that's an 11 a.m. kick Central Time, noon Eastern kick on Saturday for Indiana and Kennesaw State. Already favored by 35.5. I expect this to be the breakout opening performance type of game that the Hoosiers are looking for, that you were probably looking for as an Indiana fan as well. But we'll talk about this game as the week goes on. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here, joining us on a Labor Day. That's right. We're here for you every single day as best as we can, no matter what. All right, so we are back tomorrow. The rest of the week, we've got more recruiting updates to talk about, more football things to talk about, and a ton of good episodes coming your way. So be sure that you are subscribed to the channel, following us however you can, and have those notifications turned on as well, okay? We are back tomorrow, Hoosier fans, for another episode. So until then, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.